Good evening, children. In my previous video, I had completed our lesson number 8, digestion and absorption. So in today's video, we will begin with our new topic, lesson number 9, animal kingdom. But before we begin with this chapter, it's important we must know what exactly the syllabus requires us to study. As you can see here, animal kingdom, it's in two parts. First part is non-chordata and the second part is chordata. So in non-chordata category, children, it's very clearly telling 5 distinguishing characters with 2 examples of all these given phyla, right? Only 5 characters, again I make a note, 5 distinguishing characters with 2 examples of various phyla under the non-chordata category. And when we come to the chordata category, here this will be not done today, but later on we must make a note 3 distinguishing characters with 2 examples of each. So we will restrict to the syllabus. We will follow our syllabus strictly, right? And as I just begin here, I would also like to tell you, in our prescribed test book, there are many things that are given in very detailed and elaborate way. So your lesson begins here, page number 3.53, right? And it's given in a very extraordinarily detailed manner, right? So in short, you don't need to study everything. Like for example, like the first one, the phylum Porifera. Here it is, phylum Porifera. How much we have to study? 5 characters and only 2 examples. So here, how much is your book showing? You can see this, phylum Porifera. It's showing in some 15 characteristics, right? With the life history of some few examples, totally not required. And many examples, you can see, all discussed in detail, like 5 of them they have been explained. But we require no explanations, but only 2 examples. Alright, so this is what I want to make it clear, children, that 5 characteristics and 2 examples strictly, and no details that are required to be very deep and in an elaborate way. So what I have done is, I have made it in a very simplified way, right? In tabulated way. First, let us begin with the word notochord. That is why we call various animals under chordata and why do we call them as non-chordates. There is a term we call notochord, which is a mesodermally derived rod-like structure formed on the dorsal side during embryonic development in some animals. In short, there are certain animals which have a structure in their body, right? This is called as notochord. And where is it present? On the dorsal side of their body, and this develops during their embryonic development. So accordingly, those animals which have this notochord, they are called as chordates, right? That is, these animals with notochord in some stages of their life cycle, they are called chordates. Whereas here, those animals which do not develop the notochord are called as non-chordates. And we have some many phylum under this. We'll talk one by one. So these are the members beginning from phylum Porifera to phylum Echinodermata, right? So let us see what all things are the representatives and the phylum under each. First thing I have started with the term notochord, as it means a dorsal rod-like structure in the body of some animals which develops during the embryonic stage, right? So let us begin. First, today we will start with the non-chordates. That is those animals which do not have this notochord, right? They are called as non-chordates. Under this, we have some many phyla, that is 10 are given. So if we number them, this will go as like this. 10 phylum we have to discuss as per your syllabus. And just now I made you read how much we have to study in all of them. 5 characters and only 2 examples strictly as per our syllabus. So going in extra details will be nothing but confusing you, which is not required as per the council syllabus. So today we will start one by one. Phylum Porifera is the first phylum to begin. This chordata, we'll do it in our next video. So today's video will be only about the non-chordata. Now there are certain points that I have written in each category, right? Here. In your previous books, I like to remind you, that is in class 9th textbook, when we were studying the chapter Diversity in Animal Life, right? Or this chapter 5 Kingdom Classification, there you studied a difference between vertebrates and invertebrates. Alright, so here you have a brief idea of these animals you have studied under invertebrates, right? Like Porifera, Cnidaria, etc. Under these headings, you have studied up till phylum Echinodermata and then chordata or the vertebrata. So children, in other words, if we have to discuss this, we can call the vertebrates as chordates. So you can write down here in your notes, phylum chordata can be called as vertebrata, whereas phylum, that is a group of non-chordata, these will be called as the invertebrata, right? So what are the broad differences between the two categories? Let's quickly revise. The invertebrates, that is what we are going to study. In means without. These do not have an internal skeleton, whereas the vertebrates, they have an internal skeleton, like us humans, right? Then here backbone is not present, but here a backbone is present. Then tail is absent. In invertebrates there is no tail, but in vertebrates tail is usually present. Heart, when present, is on the dorsal side of the body, whereas in the vertebrates, heart is on the ventral side. Fifth point, nerve cord is ventral and solid, but here the nerve or the spinal cord is dorsal and hollow. Then invertebrates have 3 or more pairs of limbs if present, and here they only have 2 pairs of limbs. And the last point, hemoglobin if present is dissolved, but here hemoglobin is present in the red blood cells. Alright, so this was just a mere revision. I will send a picture of this difference table. You can write and revise once again as we are starting now the details of our chapter. So let us begin now with our first phylum, and I have written strictly as per your syllabus requirement, children. That is 5 characters which I sort out all for you in a very easy manner, and I have written, and you may stick to these notes. Alright, so first phylum Porifera. As the name tells, pori, this is word derived from the term pore bearers. That is, porous means pore and fere means bearer. That means pore bearing animals, right? Very simple examples would be like this. A simple sponge. You can see there are many pores on the body through which the water along with oxygen and food enters and leaves through the top of the animal's body. Right. Now here the examples, 2 as I said, Leucosolenia and Scypha or a Cycon. Right. So Leucosolenia and Scypha. All of them, what they have in common is that they are pore bearers. First look at them. This is a Leucosolenia. Pore bearer, as I just now told you, has countless number of pores through which the water brings food and oxygen and then takes out the waste along with carbon dioxide. This is Cycon. Here we also call it as the Scypha. So what are the characteristics? First, radially symmetrical. Now, radially symmetrical means that if we cut the body of this organism through any plane passing through the radius, we get equal number of exactly the similarity between the halves that are obtained. For example, once again, see this diagram. This is a radial symmetry. That means here, if we cut the animal into 2 halves, right, in such a way that the incision or the line passes through the center, it will be divided exactly into 2 similar halves. So such animals, they are called as radially symmetrical. On the other note, we have certain other animals like bilaterally symmetrical. Bi means this would be seen in a housefly or a human body, right? In this, the body can be divided into two similar halves. As you can see, the left and the right parts, right? Only along one plane. That means one single line will divide it only into two equal halves. But in the radial symmetry, you can divide it into any number of planes, but subject to condition, it should pass through the center. All right. So this is the term, what we mean here, radial symmetry or asymmetrical. That means there is no geometric pattern or design. Second is diploblastic. Diplo means two. So these organisms, they have two layers of the body wall. Third, they are perforated by numerous minute dermal pores, right? And these pores are called as ostia. Fourth, digestive, respiratory and excretory organs are absent, and skeleton is formed of calcareous or siliceous spicules or of spongin fibers. So this is all 5. One extra I have given you, just for any case, whichever you want you can select. These organisms, they possess great power of regeneration. That means they can make up their lost parts of the body. So that's all, children. The same what in your textbook has been explained from here. This is one page, second, third, 4.5, right? It's a very detailed version and you only restrict to 5 characteristics. I have suggested my characteristics here, right, which I have just briefed enough in a very simplified way. If you want to take up your characteristics from the textbook, children, you are free to do that, right? But please restrict to the number that is given from the council. Similarly, let us come to the second one, phylum Coelenterata or phylum Cnidaria. Very common examples here. Hydra we have always heard of, right? We also call this as the freshwater polyp, right? Hydra can be solitary, that is living single, or it can be colonial, living in colonies. The other example is jellyfish or Aurelia. So let us see these organisms first. This is a hydra. You can see the tentacles around the mouth or the opening. Some more representatives of Coelenterata. Here you can see. This is the detail, again not required, children, as I told you. These are some representatives. Here you can see hydra. Then this is the jellyfish, also called as Aurelia. We have many more like the star coral, sea anemone, Physalia or the Portuguese man of war, and the sea fan. So many examples given, but we are only required to name any two. So we've taken the simple ones like hydra and the jellyfish or the Aurelia. So what are the distinguishing characters here? Phylum Coelenterata, it is derived from 3 words. The words are koilos, which means hollow, entron, which means gut, and nide means the stinging cells, because these organisms, they have typically stinging cells to help them in capturing food and also to help in defense. All right, then let us see them one by one. First, Coelenterata, the category includes those organisms which are marine, except hydra, which is a freshwater form. So most of the organisms, they are found only in seas and oceans, except hydra, which is freshwater. Second, mouth is terminal, located on hypostome. What is hypostome, children? It's a raised projection like this area. So mouth is located on the hypostome, surrounded by a cluster of tentacles. Then third point, stinging cells called cnidocytes or cnidoblasts. See, this term cnidaria is derived from the words cnidocytes only, right? Or cnidoblasts, which help in capturing food, offense, defense and adhesion. That means attaching to some surface, and thus they derive their name cnidaria. Digestion is both extracellular as well as intracellular. And finally, the asexual reproduction, this is brought by fission or budding. Right? So that's all about cnidaria, children. Once again, you can see how many pages has been given, but you don't have to do them all this economic importance, further classification, how to go into various classes, just not required. Common examples, their details, you may leave it, but restrict to only 2 names. Then we come to the third phylum, which is phylum Ctenophora or Acnidaria. Here, the examples are Pleurobrachia and Ctenoplena. Pleurobrachia is also called as the sea gooseberry, right? So let's see some of those members before we move further. Here, this is Pleurobrachia or the sea gooseberry, right? And here we can see this is Ctenoplena, right? C is silent, so Ctenoplena. So what are the distinguishing characters here? Ten means comb and force means bearing. So these organisms, right, they bear some comb plates in their body, which are bands of cilia, right? As you can see, this organism, it bears various structures like comb plates here, or various structures in rows, and they bear cilia. All right. So they are also called as swimming plates. So first characteristic, they are marine, pelagic, and solitary. That is, they are found in sea or the oceans. Then they are bioluminescent. That means they produce light due to some structure inside them. So these are bioluminescent due to presence of light producing photocytes. All right. So these structures produce light and they appear like glowing structures. Diploblastic, as I told you, diplo means two. So these are with two germ layers and they are called ecto and endoderm. Then coelom. What is coelom, children? I have defined it for you. See, fluid filled space between body wall and gut. Gut means the alimentary canal, is called as body cavity. When lined with mesoderm, that is the third germinal layer, this is called as coelom. So what is coelom, children? It means a true body cavity, right? Because body cavity is the region between the body wall and alimentary canal. And when this is lined by mesoderm, we call it a true coelom or a true body cavity. All right. So here, coelom and skeleton are absent and they are acoelomate. A means without coelom. So because coelom is absent, we call it acoelomate. Then 8 equidistant comb plates present having bands of cilia which help in swimming. They are also called as swimming plates. Hermaphrodite, that means they are bisexual. And last one, only sexual reproduction occurs, right? So that's all about the phylum Ctenophora, or we also call it as Acnidaria. Then coming to the fourth phylum, once again moving on to the things you can see which are not required, children. We come to the fifth phylum now, that is phylum Platyhelminthes. Here, this includes the flatworms. See, platy means flat and helminthes means worm. Common examples would be Fasciola or the liver fluke and Planaria. So first see the organisms, children. Here, this is Planaria and this is a Fasciola or a liver fluke. Alright, one more is shown here, but as I said, we only have to restrict to any of the two, but this one is called as Schistosoma. Right, so let's go into the details now. 5 characteristics. First is they are soft-bodied, dorso-ventrally flattened. See, as the name tells, flatworms because they are dorso-ventrally flattened, and legless, worm-like animals. Triploblastic. So here there are all 3 germ layers: ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm. Acoelomate, just now I told you, that is without the coelom, that is body cavity is absent. Then alimentary canal with a highly branched tube with mouth but no anus, right? So you can see here the alimentary canal shows the mouth but there is no anus at all. And finally, excretory organs are specialized structures called flame cells, and they help in excretion and osmoregulation. That is not only just the throwing of waste, but they also help in controlling the water balance in the body, right? So this is how an excretory cell or a flame cell looks like. So all these diagrams, children, they are not required, so don't try practicing them. You only have to restrict to these characteristics. Moving to the 5th phylum, which is phylum Nematoda or Nemathelminthes or Aschelminthes. Nema means thread and helminthes means worms. Let us see the examples here. The examples are Ascaris lumbricoides, the intestinal roundworm, and Wuchereria bancrofti, the filarial worm. Right? So here, let us see them before we begin. Nematoda. This is here. These are some disease-causing nematodes. This is Ascaris. I'm sure you have seen them in your previous practical classes in 9th and 10th. And then this is Wuchereria bancrofti, the filarial worm. Right? These are some more species of Enterobius, and this is Ancyclostoma. So again, children, learn only the simple ones. I have given you Ascaris lumbricoides, and the other is Wuchereria bancrofti. So what are the characteristics, children? Here, as I said, they are thread-like worms, free-living or endoparasitic. So when they are free-living, they occur in fresh water, and when they are endoparasitic, they occur in both plants and animals. Right? So they may also be found in a free-living state in sea or soil. All right. Bilateral symmetry. That means, what did I tell you here? You can divide the body in only one single plane, that we divide them into two equal halves. All right. Then triploblastic or 3 germ layers, and pseudocoelomate. Pseudo means false coelom. It's not a true coelom, but it's like an incomplete but false coelom. Then cylindrical, just now you saw both of them, they are cylindrical. Unsegmented, that means no segments or partitions are there, and they are worm-like body with tapering ends. Then heads and appendages are absent. You can see here there are no hands or legs. There are no clear heads as demarcated areas. And finally, they show sexual dimorphism, that is, sexes are separate. Male, they are smaller than the female, and they have at its posterior end curved and has a pair of pineal setae. So look at this, children. Ascaris. Males, they are smaller than the females. Females are more greater in length or longer than the males. And males especially, they have a curve at their posterior end, and they have a pair of structures what we call as pineal setae. So this is how we recognize the males and the females in this phylum of Nematoda. I hope, children, you are understanding how to go on with the characters. Till now, I have started from the beginning, right, with the term notochord, and then we are describing one by one the non-chordates today. We have completed 5 ones so far: Porifera, Cnidaria, Ctenophora, Platyhelminthes, Nemathelminthes, and now we move on to the 6th one, that is phylum Annelida. Alright, phylum Annelida. Now here, this includes the category of segmented worms because the word annulus means ring. Examples very common are earthworm called Ferretima posthuma and Hirudinaria, or the Indian cattle leech. Let us see them. Right? It's always interesting when we see the organism or the animal and then describe. This is Ferretima posthuma, or the earthworm. And then here, this is the cattle leech or Hirudinaria. Then this is Nereis. So what is the characteristic here? You can see that these animals, they have got segmented bodies, right? So let us see further now. Characteristics: triploblastic, bilaterally symmetrical. Once again, here they have 3 germ layers, therefore triploblastic, and bilaterally symmetrical because their bodies can be divided into 2 equal halves by a single one vertical plane only. Alright? Then, body divisible into segments by ring-like grooves or annuli. The plural of annulus is annuli externally, and by septa internally. These segments are called metameres. Alright, so you can see the body segments in these organisms externally, right? They're divided by ring-like grooves or annulus. So this is like various annuli in positions, and internally they're divided by septa. Digestive tract is a straight but complex tube. Respiration by moist integument, that is skin, gills, or modified parapodia. So this is like not just an earthworm or anyone, we are describing the entire phylum. So sometimes it is the skin, The other times it is gills, and sometimes it is the modified structures called parapodia. And the last one, excretory organs are segmentally arranged coiled tubes called nephridia. So that's all about the Annelida. So once again, let us see how detailed Annelida is given. This, you can see all that started over here. From here, all this is not required, children. Details of metameric segments, nothing to do with. Only see how it is showing the septum internally. This is partition internally by septum and outside by the annular rings. Then these diagrams, the larvae, trochophore larvae and etc. These all things, they are not required at all. Moving to the 7th phylum, that is phylum Arthropoda. The term arthros means jointed and poda means foot. That means these organisms, they have their jointed feet. Look at this. This is a characteristic diagram, we can say generalized diagram for the jointed feet of these organisms. What does the term jointed feet means? Like their legs, they are jointed in these ways, ending up in claws or some other pointed structure. So this is the category of Arthropoda, one of the largest phylum in the animal kingdom. And here we have more than 900,000 known species, right? Arthropods, they are known to comprise 78% of all known animals. You can imagine which phylum, this is the most important phylum in the animal kingdom with 78% animals all over the world. Examples, Apis indica or the honeybee, and Pelimon or the prawn, butterfly, mosquito, etc. General characteristics, triploblastic, bilaterally symmetrical, segmented, that is head, thorax and abdomen. Then segments are not separated by septa internally. So let us see some arthropods here. You can see all of them, they have their jointed feet. Pelimon or the prawn, this is, I have taken one example. Then you can see here the other examples like the scorpion, then this is millipede, centipede, etc. Right? The second characteristic, they possess paired jointed appendages which are variously modified as jaws, gills, legs, swimming paddles, etc. Third, exoskeleton is thick and chitinous, right? Fourth, exoskeleton is shed periodically and a new one is developed. This phenomenon is called as molting or ecdysis. I hope you remember, children, in your earlier classes, you've studied life history of a butterfly, how the egg changes into larva into a pupa and then adult. So at every stage of larval development, you have studied how it sheds the skin, and the same is what has been explained here, molting or ecdysis, that is shedding of old skin and generating the new one which is bigger than the previous. Fifth characteristic, digestive system is complete and divided into foregut, midgut and hindgut. And finally, one extra I have given, so you may choose any one here. Circulatory system is open type with a dorsal heart and blood vessels widening into irregular blood-filled spaces called sinuses. Alright, so here we have the 7th phylum, that was Arthropoda. Moving on to our 8th phylum. All these details, children, you may not do, right? All these details extra, they're just not required. Differences between insecta and arachnida, etc. No need. So you can see how elaborate this has been explained. All these tables not required. Moving to phylum Mollusca. Here the term molluscus in Latin, L means here in Latin, and wherever it's written GK, which means Greek. So Latin molluscus means soft bodied. So all these animals are soft bodied here. Example, octopus called devilfish, oysters, mussels, etc. So let us see some animals before we describe them. Here you can see we have a unio, soft-bodied animal protected by a shell inside, right? Then you can also see some few members, Doris, then Limax, Pila. This is octopus, the devilfish, right? Etc. So let us see the characteristics. Body is soft, unsegmented, triploblastic, without jointed appendages. Head carries mouth, eyes, and tentacles. Foot is ventral, thick, muscular, and variously modified for creeping, plowing, or seizing. Alimentary canal is well developed, and coiled buccal cavity contains a tongue-like rasping organ called radula. Excretory organs are one or two pairs of nephridia. Ammonia is the chief excretory substance. And finally, one extra I have given. Body is distinguished into head, visceral mass, muscular foot, and mantle. So children, this is how you have to study. You may imagine how detailed the substance is looking like, but you have to really tailor make your need here as per the syllabus. Coming to our next phylum, phylum Echinodermata. In Greek, gr means Greek, echeinos means spiny, and derma means skin. So all the organisms here, they are the spiny skinned animals. Number one, starfish, we call it scientifically as Asterias, and sea urchin, which is a common word, but scientifically it is Echinus. So let's see them. You can see here some echinoderms. This is the starfish, right? Then here, this is the brittle star, the sea urchin. This is the feather star, sea cucumber, etc. So only two examples required, children, no diagrams. Let us describe them. First, animals are radially symmetrical. That means if we cut them or divide them through their radius, right, into any number of segments, they will be in equal numbers, right? Or they'll be just in such a way that the line passing through the center will divide the body into two similar halves, right? This is called as radial symmetry. Triploblastic, and they have organ system level of organization. That means they are three germ layered. Mesodermal calcareous plates bear immovable spines which project on the body surface, hence they are called echinoderms. See, all of these animals, one thing is common, that they have spiny structures protruding from the body. That is why they are called as echinoderms, right? And the same spinous plates, they are arising from the middle layer. We call them as mesodermal calcareous plates. Excretory organs are absent, and echinoderms are ammonotelic. Ammonotelic means they excrete ammonia as the nitrogenous waste. And finally, blood vascular system is poorly developed. It is called hemal system, and there is no respiratory pigment and no heart. All right. So that's all about the echinoderm. And coming to our last section of the phylum under non-chordata, you can see all this. And finally, our last thing for today, phylum Hemichordata. Hemi means half and chorda means rod or string. Only one example here to study, children. It is Belanoglossus. You can see this. Only one is given and only three characteristics are given here. Number one, body is worm-like, divided into proboscis, collar and trunk. See this. The animal, this is the worm-like body divided into the regions like proboscis, number one. Then it is collar. You can see this. Second part. And this large part, what is the trunk here. Pharynx is perforated by gills. Alright, so this another characteristic here, that pharynx is perforated by the gill slits, and the buccal diverticulum arises from the roof of buccal cavity and is regarded to be equivalent to notochord. It is hollow and it's also called as stomochord. So here you have to understand one more thing I like to just tell you before we close our class today. So interesting fact shown here, that Hemichordata, this phylum, the 10th phylum we are writing here, was once considered a subphylum. But animals which are placed in this phylum possess gill slits in the wall of pharynx and a buccal diverticulum that was thought to be a notochord. It is now agreed that this structure is neither homologous or analogous to chordate notochord. It is an anterior projection of the digestive tract. Therefore, now Hemichordata is regarded as a separate phylum. The larva is similar to Echinoderm, Bipinnaria larva. So I suggest, student, you may not do this for the learning part. This is only for your interesting inquisitive questions that might be coming in your mind, that why here in class 9th you have been explained up till 9 phylum. If you remember class 9th, I'll show you here. Look here, this is a class 9th book, and while studying here you had been told about 9 phylum like this, right? That is 8 under the non-chordata, right, or the invertebrates, and only one that was the chordata, that was the vertebrate. So where is this one, phylum Hemichordata? You have never studied, because it was first taken up as a subphylum, but now it has been given the place of a phylum. So that's all for today, children. I have just tried my best to pen down the things as per your syllabus, right? No need to go into those deep details. Strictly write down these notes, right, with strictly 5 characteristics and 2 simple examples given, which I found definitely you might find them familiar. I have chosen the same, right? So 6 pages I am sending you, children. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, right? And this chapter you have to basically learn the characteristics, right, and the examples. So here we finish with the first part of the lesson, that is about non-chordates. In my next lecture I'll be taking phylum Chordata. So that's all for just now, children. Any queries you may ask, right, anytime. Thank you so much.